In the Father and Son, the Holy Spirit, one God.
Abuna, can I start or?
Yeah, please, George, go ahead.
Okay, sounds good. So let me share my screen first. Hello, everyone. Today we have a contemplation. Here are the verses that we're going to be looking at. For I am the Lord, I do not change. Therefore, you are not consumed, O sons of Jacob. That's a verse, a beautiful verse from Malachi. Another verse is every good gift from James. Every good gift and every perfect gift is from above and comes down from the Father of lights, with whom there is no variation or shadow of turning. That's from the epistle of St. James. In Hebrews, we have Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. So as you can see, the theme that we have today, or in light of these verses, what we want to talk about today is we want to talk about one of the attributes of God, one of the characters of God. That's what we want to reflect upon. And that character is that God is immutable. God does not change. He is unchanging. He is the same from before the beginning of time into eternity. His character never changes. So if you look at his plans for us, his plans do not change. His promises do not change. He's always the same. I'll tell you in a minute, of course, what we would like to contemplate about here. So the first set of points that I want to reflect upon is that the fact that God does not change, he has no variation, that he is the same yesterday, today, and forever, that definitely can be a great source of joy and peace and also stability for us when we rely on God. God's unchanging nature, the fact that he does not change at all. What this means is that God is dependable. This is very comforting. The fact that God is dependable, someone I can trust, I can rely upon, he's never gonna have any variation, gives us so much comfort, meaning that our trust in him is gonna be a confident trust. His purposes and his promises are definitely gonna be unfailing. For example, God has promised us eternal life, and God is immutable. That means that whatever he said is true. So we can be, in fact, assured that nothing is going to separate us from him. If you guys remember, before we contemplated about a beautiful verse from Romans 8, where St. Paul was saying that nothing is going to separate us from the love of God. He mentioned so many things, whether hardships or trouble or persecutions, you name it. So he is the same yesterday, today, and forever. Because of that, like we said, we have stability. So the world can change around us so much, and it can change very fast. But he is not going to change. We all see how governments change, how kingdoms can rise and fall. The world can even go upside down, but God is unchanging. In fact, I can even lose everything. The things that I rely upon, they can disappear in a blink of an eye. So that could be, for example, people around me. It could be my health. It could be my money. It could be my business. It could be my job. These things can change. They can easily change, and it can happen in a blink of an eye in a way that nobody has ever imagined. Even friends can even fail me. I could have friends next to me today, but then tomorrow they are not there. If you look at the verse that we have here at the bottom, St. Paul was saying that in Timothy, by the way, this epistle of Timothy, the second epistle to Timothy, this was written at the very end of the life of St. Paul, right before his martyrdom. That was the last epistle that he wrote. He's telling Timothy, for Demas has forsaken me, having loved this present world. So Demas, who was with him at some point, now has changed. He even goes further and says, at my first defense, no one came to my support, but everyone deserted me. So يعني اللي هي بالعربي الجميع تركوني. So even the people, even the friends that are most close, these people can change. They may not be there for me all the time. We as people, we like stability. Stability means اللي هي يعني بالعربي استقرار. يعني كلنا بندور على الاستقرار. But life can really change abruptly. It has its ups and downs. if we rely on anything in this earth, it is not possible that this thing is going to support us forever. I mean, these days we can even see that even our external life of prayer, for example, if it's only outward, we cannot rely on this. What we need is an inward type of life. So the only thing that does not change is God himself. He's immutable. So, and that is a great source of comfort for all of us. So if I want to anchor myself to someone, I need to anchor myself to the unchanging, especially, of course, in the times where we feel that we're losing control, or the times that we feel that we're not standing on stable ground. These are the times where we do need to anchor ourselves to God. Of course, the consequences of the fact that God is unchangeable are great. Like we said, the joy, if we are anchored to God, we're going to be always happy no matter what happens. But another thing is that his love also is not going to change. So his love is not dependent, for example, on my spiritual state. He will continue to love me even if I'm bad, even if I'm down spiritually. That will always be the case. Even if I am distracted from him, he will continue to love me. So even people's love, even those who are close to me, their love can change. Their love can be conditional. If I, for example, offend them, maybe with time they start losing that feeling of love towards me. But with God, that does not happen. And we see that very clearly, for example, in the story of the prodigal son. How the son went to a far country and he spent all his money with prodigal living, like we've seen during the fast, during the Lent. But nothing changed the love of the father towards him. Another consequence of this is, of course, that God's promises do not change. So, for example, he promised Abraham that he's going to give him a son. At some point, even Abraham started losing hope, and he started resorting to some human ways, and he went and he married somebody else and got Ismail. But then God promised him, he told him that he will make his descendants like the stars of heaven. And God kept his promise, even when the time has passed, and even though the time was long before God came and fulfilled that promise, but God kept his promise. So when I know that I'm attached to someone who's stable, whose promise is stable, I can wait. It can give me hope that I can wait. You see people waiting for the last watch. God can come even in the last watch. And that's why this beautiful verse that we have here is that the character of God being unchanging means that also his word is unchanging. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will by no means pass away. So his compassion towards us does not change. He doesn't, if we knock his door, he's not going to close his door in our face. And that's why, for example, in the Psalm, we know that the psalmist says that your mercy is better than life. رحمتك أفضل من الحياة. You see David saying, the Lord is my rock and my fortress. Rock is, of course, signifying something that is stable, something that is not shaken. He's my fortress, he's my deliverer, my God, my strength, in whom I will trust, my shield, and the horn of my salvation, my stronghold. So actually, if you look, for example, at the light that shines, I was thinking of that a few days ago. If you look at the light that, I remember somebody was asking, what's going to happen to that light this year that where people are not going to be able to go? The light that came from his tomb in the Sepulchre Church did not change. It's the same, whether there are people or there are no people standing there. His resurrection, if you remember, when the angels told the Marys, they told him, why do you seek the living among the dead? He's not here. He is risen, because God is the author of life. So he always has life in him. He's the author of life. He does not change. So that's the first thing that we want to contemplate upon. The fact that when God is immutable, he has this attribute, he's unchanging, then I can definitely put my hope in him. I can rely fully on him, and he's not going to be changing. And that is the source of stability that we have. The other thing that I wanted to mention is that sometimes in our prayers can constitute of many things. Sometimes we have requests. Maybe I go ask God for earthly things. Maybe I ask him for example, well-being, for health, for sufficiency, whatever. People pray for different reasons. Other people pray for spiritual gifts. I want to have these particular virtues. God himself told us to ask for the kingdom of heaven. And these are all good prayers, but there is also another type of prayer that we can also contemplate about today, and we can add it to our prayer, and that's the prayer of praise. Meaning I can stand in front of God. I don't want to ask him for anything. I just want to be happy being in his presence. Meaning I can contemplate on one of his characters, one of his attributes. Let it be the fact that he's unchanging. So I can stand in front of him. I can tell him, I know that I will always find you here next to me. I love you because you are unchanging. You are immutable. You are not going to change. Your view of me is not going to change even if I'm bad, even if I'm spiritually not standing on my feet. So the fact that we add this type of praise in our prayer can make us love God even more and enjoy being in his presence. So maybe we can add also this to our prayer if we're not already doing it, that we can contemplate about some of God's attributes, because when we do that, definitely his love is going to start pouring inside of our hearts because we start to feel him and know him even better. So these 2 points are the source of contemplation, which are coming from the fact that he's unchanging. The first one, like we said, that our hope is in him. He is the source of our stability. His words and promises are unfailing. And the second one is that we can add to our prayers maybe a prayer of praise in which we thank him, in which we talk to him about how beautiful he is. How beautiful you are, God, because you are unchanging. طيب نقول التأمل برضو بالعربي. احنا التأمل بتاعنا فيه شايفين الآيات اللي احنا كاتبينها. الآيات دي بتتكلم عن ربنا ما بيتغيرش. يعني الآية الأولانية من ملاخي، أجيب لكم الترجمة بتاعتها، بتقول لأني أنا الرب لا أتغير فأنتم يا بني يعقوب لم تفنوا. لا أتغير يعني ربنا ما بيتغيرش. الآية الثانية اللي هي من يعقوب بيقول، طبعا دي آية مشهورة، اللي هي كل عطية صالحة وكل موهبة تامة هي من فوق نازلة من عند أبي الأنوار الذي ليس عنده تغيير ولا ظل دوران. ما بيتغيرش، ما فيش تغيير عند ربنا. يسوع المسيح هو أمس واليوم إلى الأبد، دي اللي هي من عبرانيين. فالآيات دي كلها بتخلينا يعني نشوف إن ربنا عنده صفة جميلة قوي، إن هو ما بيتغيرش، اللي هي يعني مهما حصل ربنا هيفضل هو أمس، هو أمس واليوم وإلى الأبد. وده معناه إن وعوده وخططه من ناحيتنا برضو ما بتتغيرش. فأول حاجة يعني ممكن نتأمل فيها النهاردة هي حتة إن نتيجة إن ربنا ما بيتغيرش، فهو ده ممكن تكون مصدر فرحة ومصدر استقرار كبير قوي لينا. فاحنا كنا بنقول إن يعني لو احنا بصينا حوالينا هنلاقي إن الدنيا دايما بتتغير. يعني حكومات بتتغير، هتلاقي ممالك بتقع وبتقوم. اللي احنا يعني بنشوفه النهارده بكره هيبقى حاجه مختلفه. كل حاجه بتتغير. لو احنا اعتمدنا على اي حاجه غير ربنا، ممكن الحاجه دي انها بتتغير ومش معانا. حتى الحاجات اللي احنا فاكرين ان هي ثابته، يعني مثلا حاجه زي اصحابنا او الناس القريبين قوي مننا. حتى الناس اللي هم اصحابنا ممكن في وقت من الاوقات ما نلاقيهمش جنبنا. وده حصل مثلا مع بولس. يعني بولس الرسول بيقول لأن ديماس تركني إذ أحب العالم الحاضر، اللي هي الآية دي. وبيبقى يعني بيقول لتيموساوس في الرسالة الثانية بتاعته، بيقول له الجميع تركوني. يعني ما فضلش أي حد معاه حتى وقت المحاكمة بتاعته، وقت ما كان خلاص يعني قرب حتى من الموت. فلو احنا عايزين ندور على الاستقرار، ودي حاجة بيدور عليها دايما كل إنسان. يعني من الحاجات اللي احنا دايما نقول أنا عايز أستقر، يعني مش عايز الحياة تتغير فجأة، مش عايز الابس اند داونز اللي موجوده في الحياه. وده مش ممكن يحصل لو انا يعني حطيت اعتمادي على اي حاجه غير ربنا. يعني حتى يعني من الحاجات الجميله، يعني ساعات الواحد مثلا يقول طب انا بروح الكنيسه وبحضر مثلا القداس، والقداس يعني ممكن واحد يقول طب انا بمل، انا بحضر نفس الصلاه ونفس الكلام. بس ده معناه ان ربنا هو ربنا ما بيتغيرش. يعني بروح له بلاقي ان هو يعني مستقر. يعني مهما رحت الكنيسه في اي وقت، هي نفس الصلاه ونفس الليتانيز نفس الالحان. صحيح بتغير طبعا على مدار السنه، لكن هتلاقي ان ربنا دايما موجود. وده مصدر الاستقرار، بيدينا استقرار او شعور ان احنا يعني ان احنا لو حطينا اتكالنا على ربنا هو مش بيتغير. ده معناه برضو ان محبته ليا ما بتتغيرش، ما بتعتمدش على انا وضعي شكله ايه، يعني وضعي الروحي شكله ايه. لو انا حتى يعني وحش، هو برضه هيفضل بيحبني. وده حاجة ما بتحصلش ساعات مع الناس. يعني أنا ممكن لو أنا أسأت لحد، أو أنا يعني اتصرفت تصرفات معينه مع الوقت ممكن الناس تبتدي يعني الرصيد بتاعي عندهم يبتدي يقل شويه، او مع الوقت يبتدوا يحسوا ان هم مش قابليني، او محبتهم تخس. ده لان هم بشر. لكن ربنا محبته ما بتتغيرش، لان هو محبته مش مشروطه، يعني مش كونديشنال، غير المحبه اللي هي بتاعتنا احنا البشر. ده معناه برضو ان وعود ربنا ثابته. يعني مثلا لما وعد ابراهيم وقال له ان يعني اكثر نسلك كنجوم السماء وتتبارك في نسلك جميع قبائل الارض. الوعد ده يعني هو قاله لابراهيم، وابراهيم نفسه ابتدى ييأس مع الوقت، لكن ربنا يعني حفظ وعده. واحنا لما بنعمل كده نقدر ان احنا نستنى ربنا، ننتظر الرب. يعني حته تقوى وتشدد، يعني انتظر الرب، دي ممكن يعني اللي يقدر يعملها هو الشخص اللي يعني اللي متعود، او اللي شايف ان ربنا، عارف ان ربنا وعده ثابت وامين. يعني هو صادق وامين، الحاجه اللي قالها مش هتتغير. هو يعني قال السماء والارض تزولان ولكن كلامي لا يزول. ف يعني من النقط اللي احنا عايزين نتكلم عنها النهارده او اللي عايزين نتامل فيها النهارده هي الحته دي، حته الاستقرار، او حته الفرحه والراحه اللي ممكن تكون موجوده عندي لما انا اتامل في الكاركتر بتاع ربنا ان هو ما بيتغيرش. الحاجه الثانيه ان احنا في الصلاه بتاعتنا، احنا كتير الصلاه بتاعتنا يعني ساعات احنا مثلا الصلاه بتكون شكر، وده حاجه كويسه. ممكن واحد يطلب امور ارضيه كويسه، يعني ممكن مثلا اطلب من ربنا صحه، واطلب منه انه يدينا الكفاف في كل شيء، واحنا حتى بنطلب من اجل الحاجات دي في القداس برضه، ودي حاجات كويسه. ممكن واحد حتى يعني طلباته تكون احسن، تكون طلباته روحيه. يعني ربنا قال اطلبوا ملكوت الله وبره وهذه كلها تزاد لكم، فيكون طلباته روحيه، بيطلب، بيدور على ان هو يكون ثابت مثلا في ربنا، بيدور على ان هو يكون عنده فضيله معينه. دي كلها حاجات كويسه. بس في مستوى تاني برضو من الصلاه، ان احنا ممكن نسبح ربنا. يعني ممكن انا وانا واقف يعني بصلي ربنا يعني اشكره، وابقى فرحان قوي بوجودي معاه. يعني ابقى مش عايز حاجه، يعني مش واقف انا عشان اطلب حاجه معينه. يعني انا ابقى مجرد واقف بتامل في صفات ربنا. فاحد الصفات اللي احنا ممكن نتامل فيها النهارده هي صفه ان ربنا ما بيتغيرش. ده معناه ان انا دايما هلاقيه قدامي. يعني ممكن اقول لربنا انا دايما هلاقيك زي ما انت مش هتتغير من ناحيتي، حتى لو انا كنت وحش انت هتفضل بتحبني. فالحاجات دي يعني أو النوع ده من الصلاه ممكن يخلينا نحب ربنا اكتر. وعلى فكره يعني ربنا طبعا فيه صفات كتير، فدي حاجه احنا ممكن نزودها للصلاه بتاعتنا. يعني مثلا من الصفات الجميله لربنا صفه زي الاتضاع. يعني احنا لو بصينا مثلا على وقت القيامه، يعني هو ده مش موضوع تاملنا النهارده، بس لو بصينا على حاجه زي وقت القيامه مثلا، المسيح قام قبل يعني وقت الصليب، كل الناس شافت المسيح بيتهان وبيتضرب وبيتبهدل وبيتعرى وكده. يعني لو واحد يعني في مكان المسيح، طب بيقول يعني لو بعد ما يقوم على الاقل بقى يروح للناس دول اللي عملوا فيه كده ويقول لهم طب شوفوا بقى انا دلوقتي المجد اللي انا فيه. لكن هو ما عملش كده. يعني حتى في القيامه بتاعته كان متواضع. حتى في الاعلان بتاعه لقيامته اعلنه بس للناس اللي هم، يعني زي ما احنا عارفين ان القيامه بتاعته هو اعلنها للناس اللي هي هتقبل القيامه دي، او الناس اللي عايزين ان هو يقوم، او اللي قبل القيامه بتاعته. هو صحيح ظهر لناس كتير بس ما ظهرش لكل الناس. فصفات ربنا لما الواحد يتامل فيها، ممكن ان هو يحط في الصلاه بتاعته حاجه جديده. الحاجه دي هي ان انا اسبح ربنا على صفاته، اسبحه على طبيعته اللي ما بتتغيرش، اسبحه على وعوده اللي ثابته، اللي انا متاكد ان هي مش هتتغير من ناحيتي حتى لو انا كنت مش كويس. فيا ريت يعني ناخد النقطتين دول بيزد على الصفه بتاعت ربنا ان هو unchanging، ان هو ما بيتغيرش، نتامل فيهم النهارده في الكام دقيقه اللي جايين. لإلهنا المجد دائما ابديا امين.